and I got so weak. My core muscles, I really looked kind of concave, like when you imagine you see photos of people at during war times. That I kind of had a similar, like, hunched over. Couldn't swallow very well. I couldn't bring a cup to my mouth without lifting it. My muscles were fading away. Couldn't clip my nails. I remember that because one of the physical therapists had me work on that, like the strength to cut my nails. And so the diagnosis was grim. Often you end up in a wheelchair, you end up, feeding through a straw.
This is the Mental Mettle Podcast, where we explore how to forge mental toughness and resilience in every aspect of life. Welcome, I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann. I'm an ICF certified professional coach with a background as a teacher, basketball coach, and athletic director. But my journey took a dramatic turn in 2020 when I survived both cancer and a stroke. Those experiences shaped my mission, help others grow stronger in every facet of life. Today, I work with athletes, coaches, educators, and anyone who believes that positive mental health is both achievable and a personal responsibility. This podcast is dedicated to helping listeners develop a positive version of toughness, one rooted in resilience, focus, and growth. Whether you're looking to excel on the field, in the classroom, or in life, this is your space to learn, grow, and take action. Join me on this journey, and together, let's forge your mettle. Welcome back, Metalheads. It's Coach Thomann here on the Mental Mettle Podcast, and thanks for joining. As always, thank you so much for joining, whether you're listening on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, however people listen. I sure appreciate it. The show is growing, and I have you guys to thank for this. And it's just so much fun. And today's guest is a little bit different than what I usually have. I've had a few guests, like my guest today, Anna Pavey, but not all. Most of the time I'm working with coaches, working with athletes, but occasionally I get into different stories, some amazing stories, things that happen to people that they use that for their own benefit. I can think most recently working when I had an episode with Tyson McFeeters, the young man who had a motocross accident and has now started an organization about how to stand up after spinal cord injuries. And Tyson, if you didn't listen to that podcast, go back and listen and then follow Tyson. Like, the kid, if you did listen to it, this is an update. I keep following that kid, and the kid he's starting to stand by himself and do these things. And I swear, like, it's an amazing story, Tyson, and being told he would never walk again. And that kid he's on his path to make that happen. And it's just amazing. And I love amazing stories like that. And Anna Pavey, my guest today, has an amazing story like that. I knew Anna from my time when my wife and I and my family and I lived in France, in the Alps. Good times. That's a great region to hang out in for a while. But I met Anna there, and she had, about 15 years ago, Anna had some sort of disease that her body started to attack itself, and her muscles were just being attacked to the point that she was bedridden, in a wheelchair, couldn't do anything for herself, couldn't shower, couldn't feed herself, couldn't do anything. And it looked like, I can remember following her on Facebook because it was after I'd moved back here to the States, and it just didn't look like Anna was going to make it. And she had young kids. She was in her 40s, and it did not look good. And Anna had a very religious experience, miraculous healing, that very, very acute change. One moment it looked like she wasn't going to make it, and then had this miraculous moment, and everything started coming up from them. And it's just an amazing story. But she has gone from being able to couldn't even move, can't do anything, to at age 50, she completed her first Ironman triathlon and just recently qualified for the World Championships half Ironman in Malaga, Spain. And it is an amazing story on her ability to recover and do that. And it just brings up, because I have I feel this all the time in the sense that I had a moment after my stroke, right? I lost the ability to speak and write. And now I do these things for a living, right? I go around and I talk to people and I speak for a living. And it's amazing to me about these transformations. And it always brings up this question: should we be amazed that I'm able to do this? Or should we be amazed that Anna has chosen to do this after this? Or is it this life-altering moment that is the catalyst and the reason that she's able to do that? Like, would she have, if she had never had this moment in her life where she was unable to even move and feed herself, if that was the path that God had for her, that never happened to her, would she have ever completed a triathlon? And I tend to think she probably wouldn't have. Like, it was the terrible moment that led her to the achievements she does now and the people she helps, and she does nonprofit stuff on this. And it's just such interesting questions, right? Like, how do it just it's so hard to formulate, like, how do we say that? Because like, you never want these things, you don't want to wish them on certain people. You don't want to wish them on anybody. Like the things that happen to me, the things that happen to Anna, you don't want to wish them, but they go on beyond these things and do great things and help people and accomplish great things. And personally, I can look back and say I'm here doing what I love now, and it never would have happened if for not the bad things. So it's just an amazing conversation, and it's so much fun to talk about. And I think what I would like to be able to figure out is, how do we get everybody to feel like that? I think gratitude is one of the ways to do that. And Anna and I will talk about this and how gratitude is being grateful for things that helps us move forward so much. Like Anna talks about in this interview, that like, she doesn't mind, biking miles over the Colorado hills and feeling the pain, because she's so grateful that she can do it and feel that pain. So it's an interesting, how do you feel like that, having never lost that ability? And I think that's something that we ought to be able to do. So, but anyway, I'm going to get into it. Enjoy the episode, enjoy the interview, and I will talk to you on the other side. Are you ready to take on the toughest opponent you've ever faced? Yourself. At Mental Mettle Coaching, I work with athletes, coaches, and professionals who are up for a challenge and ready to grow. Through individual coaching, group coaching, and professional development for schools and businesses, we'll help you build confidence, resilience, and a mindset that seeks growth. If you're serious about becoming your best, let's get started. Check out the show notes for my contact information, and together, let's forge your mettle. Mettle is a person's ability to face adversity in a spirited and resilient manner. It is a great skill to have for athletics and for life, but it is not something we are born with. If you want it, you have to forge your mettle. And if you listen to the Mental Mettle Podcast, you already know that, but not everybody else does yet. So help me out by ordering and wearing some sweet The Mental Mettle Podcast gear. We've got short sleeve tees, long sleeve tees, and some super comfortable hoodies. Order online today and you can have your gear in no time. But the best part is that every order helps support the show and helps me spread the message that mental toughness is a trait that can and should be built. So find the link in the show notes, order your gear, and start showing that you know how to forge your mettle. All right, welcome back to the Mental Mettle Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann. I'm here with my guest today, Anna Pavey. And
hello, nice to be here.
Thank you. I guess what I should say more than anything else is bonjour.
Bonjour.
And that's interesting because we were just talking before I jumped on here that we met in France when we were there.
Early, yeah, mid 2000s,
It was
2010
I
maybe.
was there 2008
Okay.
is when I was there. I don't think I've talked to you since very much. Maybe
No, just thanks to social media, we kind of, from a distance keep in
it's.
touch.
I mean, that's not our topic, but it's social media has its negatives, but it has a lot of positives too.
Yeah,
I don't think,
exactly.
yeah. So I wouldn't be able to follow. I wouldn't have followed you and seen what you're doing and seen your story and all those things.
Hmm.
Speaking of which, your story here. Let's start with what do you do now? Like, give the rundown on what you do now from the sense of why I would have you on the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah,
What do I do now? I could answer that professionally. I
I,
could
I
answer that personally.
yeah.
So I'll answer that more personally because I think that's what led us to today is I am an amateur endurance athlete. I love when I work for a nonprofit executive. So it's my day job. But other than that time, I love triathlon. I love endurance sports. I work with a coach on a pretty much every day. I have a coach planning out for me what I should do. And right now, I'm training for a really big ride in Colorado in 2 weeks, going over 3 mountain passes. It's called the Triple Bypass, 118 miles, gaining over 10,000 feet.
Okay.
And I'm doing it to raise money for a nonprofit that I care about and also just to be able to do something hard.
We're going to get into a couple of those things.
Yep.
Right? What's the nonprofit?
Revelation Wellness. So,
Okay.
a nonprofit, yeah, we train people to love God and their bodies. And so, my fundraiser for this event is going to give scholarship money for people to be able to take part in the various products and programs that Revelation Wellness offers and who couldn't afford it otherwise. So,
Okay.
that's, yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I didn't look at your organization much, but now I'm really interested because I think when I got into this coaching space that I do now,
Mhm.
that there's a lot,
Mhm.
there's positive psychology with it. There's psychology with, and as you know, I'm a strong Christian and I believe in God. I trust in God to do so much, but then a lot of the stuff that I do, I know there are people that think those things don't go together. And when you
Right.
talk about loving God and loving your body, I think that there are people that think that those two can't go together.
Yeah, exactly. So often in the church, we talk about our minds, our spiritual well-being, but we completely forget the physical, the here and now. And that's been something even before working with this organization has been a passion of mine of just integrating the here and now. How am I thriving physically? Am I living the fullest potential that my body allows me to live? And as I'm doing that, am I honoring God and celebrating? And that does, I know we're going to get to my story and why that's been so significant, but I do believe that our bodies, we're holistic beings, and what we experience physically and mentally and emotionally all interties.
I agree. I'm with you 100%. I love it. I love how you're saying that. I think that um, how do you do that? Man, I'm getting into the weeds here, but how do you do that without it being prideful? Because I know that's probably the tipping point, right?
How do you celebrate what your body can do without being prideful or
Yeah, right. Because I feel like that's the line, right? How do you do all of that
Mhm.
without leaning it and being too prideful, right?
Yeah. Well, all it takes is a good injury and your pride goes out the window.
That's good. That's a good point. Sometimes you're right. Sometimes, yeah. I'm thinking about youth, right? They you
Yep.
don't have that injury, and because it happens, right? You're as much
Yeah.
as you want to put into
Yeah.
it, it'll yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah, it's a good
No,
point.
there's a lot of truth. One of my favorite books is by Andy Crouch, and he speaks on power. And it marked me so much because he tells stories of you get to a certain point in your career, whether it's professionally or athletics, where you're just good. Just because of the decades you've been doing, you're just good. And so it's so healthy to try new things where you just suck. You're like, you are not the strongest one in the room because it's so humbling. And that was part of my journey as an endurance athlete, as a trail runner. that's been sort of my heart for years. Experienced an injury where I couldn't run. And I'm like, I can bike, but I feel like I need to get into the pool because that's the true cross training. And this was at age 45. I didn't know how to swim a length. And so I go to the Y and I hire a 20 something swim instructor, and she teaches me to just be able to get down and back in the pool. And so I I ended up loving it. And now I'm a triathlete, fast forward. But just to be at that where I'm so good in this sport and I can't do it anymore, and then I have to try something where I can barely get across. It's just so good. It does keep that pride in check to try things that you're not good at.
What was the motivation for jumping in the
To
pool?
um well, exercise, endorphins. I'm an endurance junkie, and so I
Uh
just
huh.
needed something to do to move my body. Little did I know that, it was going to become a mainstay, that today I'm doing it. Just swam this morning. I was working with a coach at the time who is a more of a running coach, running and strength training coach. And one of the things that she would have me do every year, she bought me a book called A Passion Planner. And there's an exercise on page 1 of that where you set a timer and you just write whatever it is comes to your mind that it's kind of like scary. What do you want to do in 5 years? What do you want to do
Right.
in 1 year? And I had just started to swim and I wrote down triathlon. And I showed it to her and she said, do it, sign up.
Yeah.
So trembling, I find one that's really short and I sign up, and the rest is history. I loved it so much. And so what a great thing to do in your mid 40s to push yourself into doing something hard. So that's
Oh,
my long-winded answer to pride in
I
the
love it.
pool.
I have a similar. I started jujitsu at 47. And when
Mm,
people ask me why I started, I gave them the exact same answer. I'm like, well, I wasn't doing. As you know, I used to run some. I injured my hip, and I couldn't hardly run a mile, and I was trying to get it back. But I'm like, in the meantime, I'm sitting on the couch doing nothing
right.
while I'm trying to rehab it. I'm like, this is not okay. So I said I need to do something hard, and that was my motivation for starting jujitsu. It's the same way that you're doing it. It's like I don't
Yeah.
know if that means there's something wrong with us or something right with us, but it's like I have to be finding something that's hard.
Yeah, yeah, there's a drive to be challenged, and once you experience it and the reward, then you just want to keep going after it.
Yeah. When did you start doing the trail running? I know that was your start, right?
Hmm.
Was that the
Yeah,
was
I
that the
ran
first
high school
endurance?
cross country. Yeah, I
Okay.
ran high school cross country, so it's always been there. Living in France, we lived in the Alps, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
took up cycling, so did a lot of biking, but running has always been my thing. And then, as often happens with lots of people who put in lots of miles, sprain ankles and like your hip or your knee, you just need to start diversifying. And that's what forced me into triathlon. And I absolutely love it. I'm really delighted because I'm new. I see gains and I see progress even still at my age. I'm 52, that I'm still getting better. And that's incredible to be at 52 and still getting better at something.
Right. I think that's the thing when you talk about starting something new is scary because it's very humbling and you're very not good at it whatsoever. But without that starting point, you don't get a lot of times you don't get to see good at all. You never
Mhm.
see any growth at all. And on honestly anything you're doing, especially even if you're in a job that you've been doing it for a long time, if you're really good at it, if you've been doing it for a long time, it's hard for us to notice what we're getting better at.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, it's been rewarding. So I work with a coach, Miranda, who is a triathlon coach, and she's been doing an excellent job training me mentally. I know that is a lot of what you talk about. How do you do hard things? I signed up to do a full Ironman on the eve of my 50th birthday. I just wanted to do something hard. I trained all year, and she was so good at training me on nutrition and on, okay, how are you going to respond when you want to quit? get ready because you're going to want to quit. What are you going to do with that? So she prepared me to anticipate what my answer was going to be, how to re-engage when it got hard. And I did. I completed it when I was 49 and however many days, almost 50. What
Right.
an
Yeah.
amazing way to enter in a new
Oh,
decade of doing something hard. And I learned so many lessons about sticking with it, doing it, the perseverance of training, which long, lonely, hard miles that got me to that. That was
it's,
so worth it.
I think that what you said in there is, and that is something I do working with people on, acknowledging the fact that you're going to want to quit. I
Mm-hmm.
think that there's maybe an old school idea, or some ways that the old tough idea would be like, well, no, I'm never going to quit. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. No, if you do something hard enough,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to want to quit. And if that's never happening, then you're not trying something hard enough. So I think that acknowledging that is coming and having a response, like have that bullet loaded in the gun, ready to go whenever you want to quit, and you have that response ready, and you can even visualize that response. How am I going to respond when it's hard and when I want to quit? And when you have that ready, it's so helpful. It's
Yeah.
so helpful.
Yeah, you're not surprised by it. Like, yep, here we are. Here we are. We've been here before. So this ride I'm doing in 2 weeks, the weather today is windy, Colorado mountains. Like, okay, it probably, will be windy and we'll be dealing with some hard stuff, but you expect it and you just do it. And that's something that you can build. That's a skill that you can build. And then you just keep building upon it to be able to do harder and harder things.
Oh yeah, it gets easier. That's the thing,
Hmm.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Where in your first Ironman, where was it you wanted to quit? I'm just curious.
Um, Well, probably on the run. I mean, that's as much as I'm a runner, running after,
Uh
biking
huh.
100 plus miles is not easy. And so your body is starting to break down and you run a marathon, so it's pretty long and hot. So that's the point where you're questioning your choices, but I just re-engaged. I had a plan where I would run a certain amount of time, walk a certain amount of time, and I just stayed
Yeah.
in it. All right, I'm going to run 8 minutes, and then I'm going to walk 2, and then I'm going to run another 8, and then I'm going to walk 2, and you just stayed in it the whole time.
Yeah, I think having run 2 marathons, I can't, man, the fact that I would want to, swim 2 and bike 110 and then decide to go do it, that's a
Yeah,
lot.
it's a lot.
It's a lot. Like that's the thing. You got to build up to it.
Yeah.
You can't just, well, I don't think so. I don't know if anybody does that, but you can't just show up and do it.
Sure,
My,
in your coaching, you coach people on knowing their why, and that was a lot of the work that I did going into it of why is this even important to me? And I really wanted to start a new decade with doing something new and um, just proving to myself I could do something hard. And so it was just a very, very cool journey, very spiritual journey, because you're there just in your head all day long.
mm-hmm.
My parents were there, my husband was there. So having that also, that why, like, I want to have achieved this, like they're here for me and I'm going to do this. That's the other thing that helps you re-engage when it's really hard.
And if correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm thinking on Ironman, they won't let you have headphones either, right?
No, no.
Oh,
And I've
good
kind of ditched
gracious.
that. I've ditched that because you have to learn to just be in your head
Yeah.
because that's what they allow. So I don't ever work out unless I'm just lifting weights, then I'll use the headphones, but otherwise just silence.
Yeah, my son Lane he's in college basketball right now, but he is already looking 2 years ahead when he's out, because he's going to immediately start training. He wants to do an Ironman, and
Good for
he's all
him.
this stuff he wants to do, and I'm like, man, go for it. But I don't think he's ran anything more than 5 or 6 miles,
Hmm.
so I mean he's got a lot to figure
Yeah,
out,
so why
which
don't
is,
we do an Ironman?
I know, but he'll do it because that's his
Yeah.
mindset. He will just go do it and make it happen. So, which is great.
Well, I know a good coach if he wants one.
Well, I will think about that. So I want to talk about. So there's something I want to say that I always talk about, how that if we practice in our lives, if we practice something that is voluntary adversity. It helps us prepare for the mandatory adversity that will absolutely happen at some point, right?
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, they have different motivations why you need to get through these, but I think that overcoming adversity is overcoming adversity. And if it's one type of adversity versus a different, you're able to look back and say, well, I did this, so I can do this. Right. And I think that helps, rewires the brain, all that stuff. And I think it's really useful. And I really want to get into the story of your mandatory adversity. And I will jump around. I won't quite get the timing right on what you did before and what you did after. But I think when we talk about the after, there's probably, I don't know how to put this. Don't want to put this the wrong way to offend you, but you like have no business doing what you're doing now.
Right.
Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. I'm going to leave it to you to kind of tell the story a little bit, and I'll just interject. How about that?
Okay. Sounds great. Well, so I've always been an athlete to a certain degree, ran high school cross country, taught aerobics in the 90s, went into cycling, living in France and outdoor sports. And then in 2008, 2009, I developed a very severe, very rare autoimmune disease called dermatomyositis. Unheard of, certainly for people
No.
my age. Yeah, but it's a disease where your body attacks its own muscles. And it took us multiple months to figure out what it was. Just the best way I can describe it is that I felt hungover, but I wasn't someone who drank a lot. Like, I don't know if I'd ever really been hungover before, but I just felt like something was wrong in my blood. I just could tell. And it was our local doctor in our village in France who actually first tested my CPK levels. So some people who are, athletes know CPK levels normally are in the hundreds, kind of normal. It measures the amount of damage you're doing to your muscles. I was in the tens of thousands. And so it was alarming. We identified right away that there's, your body is attacking itself. And so, long story short, I started trying multiple treatments of immunosuppressants and they weren't working. I went through test after test after test, PET scan, ultrasound, throat test, lung test, everything you can imagine, just to try to see what the underlying cause might be. Either it's just the disease itself or there's something else causing it, and to be able to treat it. And I got so weak, my core muscles, I really looked kind of concave. Like when you imagine, you see photos of people at, during war times, that I kind of had a similar, like hunched over, couldn't swallow very well. I couldn't bring a cup to my mouth without lifting it. My muscles were fading away. Couldn't clip my nails. I remember that because one of the physical therapists had me work on that, like the strength to cut my nails. And so the diagnosis was grim. Often you end up in a wheelchair, you end up, feeding through a straw, and the treatments we were doing were not working. So finally it was on the day after my daughter's birthday in April 2009 when I was hospitalized, and they just started heavy doses of prednisone and just.
Parents, is your athlete ready for the upcoming sports season? They might have the strength, the speed, and the skills, but without confidence, they can still struggle when the game is online. Skill and strength are great, they're necessary, but they're not used to their full potential without the right mentality. Confidence is key. It's the key to unlocking that full potential. And at Mental Mettle Coaching, I offer personalized sessions designed to build the confidence your athlete needs for a successful season. My proven techniques empower them to perform under pressure, both on the field and in life. Don't let a lack of confidence hold them back. Book a free session today and discover the power of confidence. Visit the website, get started on the journey to a more confident, successful athlete with Mental Mettle Coaching.
And 9 when I was hospitalized, and they just started heavy doses of prednisone and just trying to get things under control. Nothing was working. I couldn't shower, I couldn't get out of bed. It was a scary time.
Yeah.
Um, and not knowing if I would ever be well again. And three little kids, same age as yours, and who thought they were going to lose their mom. I was admitted to the hospital on a Monday. By Friday, this is a teaching hospital, so I had all this coming
Yeah.
in,
Well,
showing
yeah.
me.
I mean, yeah. That's the first time they've ever seen it, right?
If it helps someone else, okay. But they would take pictures of me, and the doctors came in on Friday. They wanted to test for HIV. They just didn't know what was going on, and they said my liver was starting to fail, and that if it wasn't better by the next day, they were going to have to send me to a different hospital, more high-end hospital. So that Friday night, I asked a friend of mine to come. Her name's Silvana, and she herself had been miraculously healed. And I asked her to come pray over me, and she did. And as she was praying, I felt this warmth come over my body, and I knew something was happening. I didn't know what, but I knew that God had heard. She left. Another friend came and prayed over me, and then that night in the hospital. So once I was positioned in bed, I really couldn't move.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would just lie there and pray. My faith was very strong because I was, when you're in times of desperation, you turn to the Lord. And, in France, they have those metal shades that, you probably remember, you bring them down over
Yeah.
the windows and it's like pitch black. And I heard them just like rattling so hard, like a huge windstorm. And then I heard a voice. It was Jesus who said, "Do not fear, I will calm the storm." And I knew he had answered my prayer and that he was healing my body. And I learned the next day there was no windstorm. So the next morning, I'm opening up the passage where he calms the storm. He's
Mm-hmm.
in the boat and he calms the storm for the disciples. And that was the beginning. I have goosebumps even now telling the story. My liver, I should have brought it here. Oh, I have it. I'm going to grab it for you.
I love it. A little show and tell. Oh, you keep it there in your Bible.
I do.
Which, why
Okay.
wouldn't you?
So this is the height, and that's the Saturday morning, the next morning where the levels start going down.
And did it continue to just go down?
Yeah, that was April 26th. So then what happened is every subsequent test over the following weeks, I was positive. I got a throat test. I got a lung test. Every time I showed up for that test, it was normal. And so it just began this gradual starting physical therapy, the cleaning of the nails. A year later, almost to the day, I ran my first half marathon. And that was a pure 2 hours of worship. And when I talked
Oh,
earlier about with my body, I worship, that's what I mean. Like this was so clearly the Lord rescued me and restored my body to fullness that the doctors said might not ever happen again. And so I was able to just build all the way back up. It wasn't like it was that, it was gradual, but I knew.
oh no,
I
I
knew.
get that. Yeah. What is there? I mean, is there any medical explanation for anything?
Oh, sure. They were doing different treatments. Yes,
Yeah,
I had to do
but they hadn't
work.
worked.
It hadn't been working for sure. And I
But
had to
they
keep going
were.
back to the hospital. They kept measuring my levels and,
Oh,
yes, for
no,
sure.
I'm not. I'm in no way, shape, or form am I questioning like the story. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
It's just that much more amazing to me that was
Hmm.
that that stuff started to work eventually, right? Like it
Right,
was
right. So, obviously the doctors who were around me, you would say, well, we finally found the right treatment that
sure.
works. And I do think God uses the
No,
medical
yeah,
community heal 100%. So grateful, so grateful. I was in France with socialized medicine. So grateful. But I know, I was there. I experienced that miraculous healing. I heard that voice, and that's just, the story just kept going of the ways that God used it. When it happened, I I have a lot of sadness, a lot of grieving. I'm not one of these people who says, "Oh, I'm so glad I went through that," because, I mean, maybe now I can say it, but it took me a long time because it was like my kids thought their mom was dying.
Yeah.
Like
That's not cool.
that's not cool. But I did promise to the Lord I would tell the story whenever asked. And so here we are, what, over 15 years later, I'm still telling the story to honor what he did and glorify what he did, that he healed me and saved me. And now when I'm biking over these mountains in 2 weeks, that's what I'll be thinking of. I have not forgotten. I never forget that I should be in a wheelchair with a feeding straw.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I think about sort of the same stuff about. I mean, I don't know. I'm a few years out from some of my stuff, and I tell you that I think that I'm in a position now. I'm in a job now, and I have a platform now that I would not have had, that I would not be doing if I were not in that situation. If that not had,
Mhm.
if that
Yeah,
had never happened to
yeah,
me.
yeah.
So I'm just curious. There's no way you can't look back at it and say that, like, how has it improved your life or made things
Mhm.
better or changed things because of that,
Yeah.
because of that scare.
Well, number one, my faith. I grew up in a Christian home and I didn't ever really have extreme rebellion, but the realness of who Jesus is, I experienced in a way that I hadn't. And so that you hold on to, and it just removes any fear of anything when you know that this is the God who healed my body. I can trust him. So that's like the foundational, like the number one thing.
Right. Yeah.
um my kids' faith too, witnessing this, other people's faith too. But even just moving into my athletic, let's say, career, for lack of a better word, because
Well, yeah, okay,
unfortunately
but
no
I'm
one's
gonna.
sponsoring me.
Yeah, well, no, you say, because you say career, and you also called yourself an amateur. But I mean, the stuff you're doing, there's not much amateur about it, except you're just not getting paid for it. Is
Yeah,
the only
not getting
part?
paid. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I would say my sense of what my limitations are was blown out of the water after that experience. The idea of doing an Ironman, I qualified for world championships in the half iron distance. I'm going to Spain. The the bike climb that I'm doing, that, yeah, it expanded my understanding of what was possible. And before the disease, I was I was fit. I was great. I was happily, but now it's like, oh, the sky's the limit. So let's really lean into this. Let's really enjoy and celebrate what your body can do, and just take part. And so it's like I'm alive in a new way as a result. That when you talk about how has it impacted your life in general, anyone who's watching this knows that when you're coached in one area, it then goes into others. So I am a much
right.
better leader. I'm a better friend. I'm a better spouse. I'm a better mom because of everything I learned through my coaching, my athletic, all of the discipline, knowing when to stop, knowing when to not give up. How do you handle injury? How do you handle success? All of that just translates then into everything that I do.
You wrote that in this thing that you wrote to me on that survey, and you just said it there in talking mental toughness and knowing when to stop,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And I think that that's like, it's an interesting concept because it isn't just always quote unquote everything you've got.
Hmm.
Katie bar the door, like you. There has to be an intelligence level to it as well.
Yeah, I mean, that might work when you're 20, but less so when you're 50. Yeah, like
Yeah,
I think for the way I'm wired, and maybe you too, type A, like I'm gonna chase it. There's someone in front of me, I'm chasing them down. Like that's the way
yeah.
that I'm wired. And that's what a wonderful trait. It's why I can be successful as an amateur. But also, sometimes it's too much is too much, and sometimes I need to actually pull back, and I need to pay attention to other things in my life. I need to go through what it feels like to not be able to get my way, my body's limitations. Like right now, I'm dealing with a foot injury. Like, how am I going to respond to that when I don't get my way? Am I going to just receive it as a different season for, that also is actually harder than the drive to win. And
Mm-hmm.
I do think mental toughness, depending on which side you're on that, for me, it's the knowing how to stop. My coach has a great thing that she says to me, because I've had some hard stuff like external to sports happen in the last few years. She's like, sometimes you just have enough hard and you actually don't need to add a hard race on top of that. And I
Right. Yeah.
so appreciate that coaching. Like sometimes it's okay to, have some more yoga in your life and go on walks.
You have to give yourself some grace at
Hmm.
different times in different situations. And I think that
Yeah.
it's finding that and realizing when I need to push and when it's my ego just trying to overwin or just
Yeah.
win everything.
Yeah, we say pace doesn't matter, but then you go out there and you try to. So yeah, it's just learning to be okay with dialing it down. And I think that's the key to longevity. We talk a lot about longevity now, right? It's kind of a phrase that you hear, like I want to be able to do this the rest of my
Right.
life. And that means therefore that I need to have these rhythms of stopping and starting.
Yeah. Which and somebody who's listening here when you're talking about running uh Ironmans and stuff,
Mhm.
that a schedule like that doesn't look like you're stopping much, but it's all relative.
Well, you have seasons, you have off seasons. You
That's
have,
fair.
you have times when you're a little less structured. That's why I
Yeah.
do appreciate working for a coach. The value to me is the pulling back as much as the pushing me is to bring me to dial it down when needed.
Yeah. And
So,
sometimes you need that voice that
hmm.
when you like you'll know like another voice will help you know when you've done enough
Hmm.
because I think that our confidence or lack of confidence, sometimes that voice comes from like, oh, I don't think I've done enough, where an outside voice can be like, no, you've done enough, you've done everything you can.
Yeah.
If you do much more, you're actually going to start making things worse,
Yeah.
especially when we're
Now just
talking.
trust it. Hmm.
Yeah, just being able to trust it.
Yeah.
So here I have an interesting question. When I'm talking about some of the things, there's a benefit from a severe health issue like
Hmm.
yours that I've had before. And it does change your perspective on life. It
Hmm.
changes your faith. It changes how you see the world. It changes what you do. It changes, or it should anyway. And I know that I feel that, and I know that you feel that. So much so that I feel it is a benefit, but then how, I don't know. How does it feel strange for me sometimes when I'm talking to people about doing some of the things that I want them to do or act and things like that. And I find myself catching myself, well, they haven't had a moment like that. Is it fair? Is it fair for me to
Yeah.
challenge them like that because maybe they haven't had a moment like that?
Yeah. And can you
I,
achieve the same learning without that?
I
Right.
don't know the answer. It seems
Right.
it's so counterintuitive, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you don't want to wish on people
No,
hardship, but the truth is,
I say
I
that.
mean, go ahead.
No, go.
Um, I mean, everyone's going to have hardship. Some of it is, obvious and intense, like what your experience and my experience. But in this world, in this life, we're going to have setbacks, right? And so, how do we respond? Do we respond? Do we allow it to grow our faith? Do we allow it to humble me in the right ways and show me I'm not quite as great as I thought, and to reliance on the Lord and reliance on others? Or am I going to go kicking and screaming? To me, that's the key. Like the severity of what I experienced, and what you experienced versus something else, like maybe you lose a job or a relationship falls apart or something. Like where do you go with that hardship?
Right.
But for me, because I know your situation was sudden. For me, it built, and I had
Yeah.
a massive prayer support at a time when, to be totally honest, I was pretty upset with God, and I
Yeah.
didn't really feel like I could pray. but I had people around me who did. And so the learning to rely on other people was the other thing when I went through that hardship. So those, can you take those key things and apply them to any hardship that you have without having to go to the hospitalization, like you and I both knew.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess it is. Yeah. You have to have that, but it's difficult when you don't go through that. But you're right. Everybody goes through something.
Hmm.
Um, it has to be, it's kind of like what we said before, like being ready and having your response locked and loaded for
Hmm.
when things go wrong.
Right.
It goes the
Yeah.
same way for relying on God and like, look,
Hmm.
I know things are coming, but how can I
Hmm.
find that? Hmm.
Yeah. The daily practices, just like so with sports, it's not fancy what I'm doing. I mean, I show up each day and I do what my coach tells me to do. And almost every day resembles the other. Like Mondays I
Yeah.
swim, Tuesdays I bike. It's like, here we go. But just that act of returning to it every time then makes me strong and ready. So the same would be true in life in other areas. What are those acts you're just going to do every day? You're going to read a verse, you're going to say a prayer, you're going to call a friend, or you're going to, what are the things you're going to do so you're ready? And that would be not just in sports, but just life in general.
Yeah, I think so. You mentioned earlier about knowing your why, and I do think that's important. And I think you have to have somewhat motivation, but I think motivation is secondary behind process. And sometimes if you just start to develop a process and just say,
Hmm.
this is what I do, and I don't need I don't need a motivation. This is just what I do. Sometimes
Yeah.
that's I think that's what you need to do some longevity things like what you're
Hmm.
doing and keep doing it. You have
Hmm.
to be like, no, this is just what I do on Mondays. This is just what I do on Tuesdays. And it just becomes a very healthy, constructive habit.
Yeah. Building habits.
Yeah. It's very important.
Hmm.
Um, talk to me about some of the I know that of course you pray, you have your faith, but what about other mental aspects you lean into to keep you going, keep you
Hmm.
sharp, keep you motivated? What are some other anything you got from
Anything I
somebody who's
got
running? Yeah,
of
anything you got.
mental. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of self-reflection. And by that, I would say just to emotional intelligence of,
Hmm.
I responded that way. What's really going on under the surface? So a lot of just pondering my own reactions to things to understand why I'm reacting a certain way is a really important part of my a regular practice. Keeping my thoughts captive. So when I'm going on a 6-hour bike ride on my own with no AirPods, just it's really easy to just unravel in your head and you're thinking about
Yes.
work or you're reliving conversations. And so just like returning to the present of look at those leaves blowing, feel the sun. And so just that also um being very present in the here and now. And that is super hard. It's at least very hard for me. I work remotely. I'm always on my phone.
Right.
Your mind is always ever to just return to the here and now. So self-awareness, self-assessment, and then at least parts of my life, parts of my day where I'm just in the here and now.
It's I love to talk about that and something I talk with people about. You call it mindful exercise, and it's
Hmm.
such a great it's a tool for connecting your mind to your body, which is really important, and having that, just having that, just connecting those two and being aware of your body and your body aware of your mind, because it does more than people realize they do.
Hmm.
Just that embodiment thing. But how mindful exercise is so good for that, to be able to exercise again with AirPods and just be enjoying stuff. I find when I try to do that, running, biking, stuff like that, I find it really hard. It is really hard
Hmm.
because it is a monotonous thing. It's probably one of my favorite principles for why I like jujitsu so much, is because it's impossible to think about something else when somebody's trying to
Hmm.
choke you or break your arm, right?
That's
So
good.
it's probably my favorite part about it, is because when I go to class for an hour, I never think of anything else. And I do think there's something to be said for everybody needs to have something like that,
Hmm.
an exercise where they just shut their brain off,
Hmm.
be in the here and now and doing something really hard. It's a very therapeutic, cathartic
Yeah, for
experience.
sure, for sure. Yoga's that way for me. But any like
Okay.
hard swim laps, you're like, all you're thinking about is getting back in time. And that is so good because it just keeps some perspective. I don't think God made us to be so connected, so aware of everything that's happening in the world. We don't
Right.
have the capacity in our brains to process. So just putting it down and being now, paying attention to our breathing, what's the environment doing, what's going on my skin, all of these very physical awareness has been really important, and it actually translates into doing the hard. So when I'm on the bike,
Yes.
I'm climbing, or when I'm on the run portion of the triathlon, um, just experience it, just observe what's happening. My coach Miranda taught me that, like, just pay attention, don't try to get out of the pain, just pay attention to it.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening? How are you feeling? What's going on with your breathing? That is a powerful exercise, just to, like you said, be embodied and pay attention to what my body's doing.
Yeah, it's a great way to. It is. It's the connection you get from doing stuff like that is really. It's so important. You just.
Hmm.
And I think that you pick up on. You notice injuries better, and you notice, like you say, you're more in tune with your body and what's going on, and you can make
Yeah.
adjustments.
The key is to not ignore those injuries,
Well,
right? Like
exactly.
we
And
all do
well,
it.
that's
Oh, it's not that bad.
well, that's what you're talking about. But you know the difference between. But if you're paying attention, you know the difference between pain or an injury, right? And you're
Yeah,
like, no,
for
that's
sure.
that's different, right? Something's going on here. That's something we ought to pay attention to.
Yeah, yeah. And that's true
Yeah.
not only physically, but emotionally. And,
Yes.
that's why I love sports so much, because it doesn't just stay in the physical. It's everything. It just translates into every area of life. The discipline here, the learning here, the humbling here, the success here, the joy, everything. You can then translate that to everything you do.
Yeah. You mentioned on your survey here about learning how to practice gratitude in the heart.
Hmm.
And we're
Hmm.
talking about that a little bit, but what do you do that's intentional about gratitude? Because I know how important that is for me
Hmm.
and for the research I've done and the work that I do, how important gratitude is. But I'd love to hear what you have to say
Yeah.
about it.
I mean, when you lose the ability to move your body, you have gratitude when you can move your body, right? Like
Yeah. Hmm.
that for sure. Like that's a huge wake up call. And but hopefully not everyone has to go through that. So how do you
Well, see, there it
take
is. There's
I
that
know,
idea
I
again,
know.
right? It's because I say that all the time. Is like I would never wish 4 month span like I had with cancer and a stroke back to back. I would never wish that on anybody. Yet it sure was helpful for me, right?
I know. Maybe
So
not everyone needs that hard lesson to learn, but it's like, okay, we're so prone to complain, right? Whether it's in a workout or just in life. And so it's like a reset. Like, okay, hang on. Like, let's look at everything I have to be thankful for right now in this moment. And yeah, I've got a foot injury, but I'm about to climb over 3 mountain passes. And yeah, and so it just, to minimize the negativity and just rest in the gratitude, it just changes your brain then, right? And it allows you to be more pleasant to be around, a better friend, you're better at a job because you're not just constantly hijacked by the negativity. And I know when I wrote your survey, I was talking specifically about doing hard physical things. Um, when you're doing hard physical things and you want to quit, to like, hang on, I'm out here moving my body. Like, look what I get to do. I'm
yeah,
so grateful I get to do this. I get
yeah.
to breathe hard and struggle to get up this mountain. And that is, yeah, it's very easy for me to go there, to get into that space of gratitude.
I love to always remind myself that the Apostle Paul wrote about giving thanks in everything while he was in prison.
Yeah.
And that is it is a constant reminder for me that if he could find something to be thankful in that situation, I'm pretty sure I can too. And,
Hmm.
and it's
Hmm.
not it's it's not a maybe, it's not a sometimes, it's there. It's
Hmm.
the gratitude
Yeah.
should always be there.
When you think
Yeah.
about who do you want to spend time with? Like, do you want to be a person who,
Yep.
you love being around people who are just like
Hmm.
smiling and they're not false positivity, but do you want to be around a person who's grumbling all the time or around a person who just can see that hope and that optimism? And I want to be one of those people who
Yeah,
can just bring that positivity into anything
I
versus
agree.
the dark side.
I agree. And it's a natural thing. And we all do it. We have
For
bad days,
sure.
and it's
For sure.
something. It's like everybody has to work on it. So, but
Yeah.
it gets better. It gets easy. So you know what? It's like focusing on positive and leaning into gratitude. I always tell people, if you're somebody who thinks that is not possible and you think it's all fake,
Hmm.
it's no different than the fact that if you're somebody who can't run 2 miles, right? If you start working on it, it'll get easier.
Hmm.
It's the same thing with your positivity and your gratitude. If you just start working on it, it'll get easier. It's
Hmm.
and if and if you haven't done it, you've only seen it, you think it's impossible. But that's because you haven't
Yeah.
tried it.
Put a little sticky note, put a little reminder on your phone. Oh yeah, it's my gratitude. Help yourself
Right?
out. Yeah.
And it seems I know people think that sounds cheesy, but it's really it's very useful. And sometimes you need those to do that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
all right, Anna, we're about out of time here. So the last question, what did I not ask you that I should have? What did we not
Mm.
touch? What did we not touch on that we should have?
Hmm. Well, I kind of wanted to talk about my memory, my favorite memory of you in France.
Oh, okay. I don't know where this is going, but we'll go for it.
Well, and if it's off limits, you can just
No,
say no.
I by all means, go. I can if
So
I don't like what you have to say, I'll just cut it
well,
out.
it might be cliche because I don't know if this was kind of your thing you did, but you showed up at our Halloween party.
Okay.
Okay. Completely covered in green. And
I
I
mean,
will never forget. Like, I am a huge superhero fan. I will never forget that moment. You were like perfect depiction of the Incredible Hulk. So I just had to say that on here. And I even have photo. I have a photo of it I dug up,
it was
but I won't show it
no,
here.
it is no. That is the first time I've ever done that, and the only time I've ever done that. So it's not like something I do all the time. So what's interesting about that is I had just. I mean, we hadn't been there for a couple months, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was. I had to go to a costume store and try to speak in French to explain what I wanted to explain to this woman about how much paint I needed, and the typical French reaction. She was just like, I was explaining to her, and she was like, "Ooh la la," and then she comes back with all this paint.
Oh, good.
That's
That
funny.
was good. It was
No,
memorable. It was well done. Well done, ma'am.
hey, whatever. Hey, what? Go big or go home, right? Like,
That was good. Yeah.
yeah, I appreciate that. I'm glad I made you smile and you still remember it. I
I
still have
do.
pictures of it
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
It was good. Yeah. So,
Well, thanks for having me on. It's been great
oh
to thank you, Facebook, for, letting us follow each other's journey. We've been
yeah,
on not similar, but not dissimilar either journeys of
yeah.
our health. So praise God that you're here doing what you're doing.
Same to you. Same to you. And I will get the links for you. Give me the another plug for your organization again, and we'll put
Yeah,
that in the show notes.
Revelation Wellness, and I can send you my link to my fundraiser. I don't know when this goes out, if it'll be too late or not, but yeah, giving to our scholarship fund.
Okay, beautiful. I'll make sure it's in there, and we'll do that. So,
All
thank you,
right.
Anna,
Thanks so much,
so
Matt.
much. Thanks so much for joining me.
My honor. Thank you.
Are you ready to take on the toughest opponent you've ever faced? Yourself. At Mental Mettle Coaching, I work with athletes, coaches, and professionals who are up for a challenge and ready to grow. Through individual coaching, group coaching, and professional development for schools and businesses, we'll help you build confidence, resilience, and a mindset that seeks growth. If you're serious about becoming your best, let's get started. Check out the show notes for my contact information, and together, let's forge your mettle. There are so many good things from that interview, even if you haven't had some traumatic life experience, there's good things in there for you. I think that the things that I picked up from Anna there, and a lot of the things that I preach, that I practice, that I coach, I don't think I think that going through a traumatic experience like that, like Anna's, helps you realize those things. But there's things she's doing now, mindset ideas and mentality, and the way she tackles, her endeavors, is that you don't have to have had a traumatic experience for that. She hires a coach, and that coach helps her focus. I love what she talks about, how she knows she's doing something really, really hard and on purpose. That's a whole nother thing, right? Choosing to do something really hard and then acknowledging the fact that this is going to be hard. It's going to be hard. And recognizing that there are going to be moments that it's hard, and having that prerequisite response ready, like the response you're going to give when it gets hard, so that you have that ready to go, so that you don't just quit. You have your why, you have your reason, and you just do that. And I think that's a mindset thing that a lot of people, again, I said it in there, too many people just say, well, I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to quit. It's not going to be hard. I'll just power through. No, acknowledging that it's going to be a struggle is a good thing. And choosing to do something hard means that you're doing something hard enough that you're going to want to quit. But being ready for that and having a response ready to go, it's very useful. And to be able to do that, and that's something that she did. Of course, her faith, leaning into her faith and how her faith helped her. It's just an amazing story about just her friends that prayed around her, over her, and just that moment of the storm, and Jesus speaking to her, and just how that started her transformation. And just that sort of faith is so helpful. And she mentioned it in there, that it helps us in every area of our life. You start to develop faith and resilience in one area, and it helps in others. And that's a great thing. I think that when you're working on these things that are hard and you're training your brain, it doesn't just stick for one area. You become more faithful. She said, become a better parent, a better spouse, a better leader, because you're working on these things. And that's absolutely true. I think one of the big things that she mentioned in there is just the power of gratitude and being thankful for things. Gratitude I've done shows about gratitude and talked about it all the time, but gratitude allows us, if we have gratitude for our ability to do something, our gratitude towards our ability to grow and our situations, it helps us to recognize the things that we're doing well that lead to growth. And if we don't give it that gratitude, and if we don't pay attention to that and be thankful for those things, then we quit doing those things. And you have to have that gratitude and be thankful for what you can do, thankful for the growth you've had, so that you continue to do those things, and leaning into that process. It's just such a positive aspect of it. And I think that, again, these are things that you can develop despite maybe you haven't had this traumatic experience. Or if you have, you should be able to look back and say, I'm glad I'm out of that. I'm glad out of that storm. I'm glad like, God has helped me get through this moment. What do I want to do with it? And I think that's really cool. I love her nonprofit. I think she's moved on from that nonprofit, but I looked it up. It's still really cool, that Revelation Wellness. I love that idea that God, because I think that all the time, that God, we couldn't do things without God. God helps us do everything. He's the grand design. He does all these things. But I think that part of that design is us putting effort into, right? And I think he wants us to work hard. It's my favorite Bible verse about whatever you do, do it with all your heart, as though working for the Lord. I think he wants us to put effort into. He wants us to honor what he's given to us and using that for everything we've got. And that's a powerful idea to me. So I really like that Revelation Wellness. I'll put that link in there in the show notes so that you can see that. And I did checked it out because the race that I did the interview with Anna Pavey a couple weeks ago, and the race has happened since. So an update on that, I checked. She completed it. It was like 110 miles through the Colorado mountains. It gained 10,000 feet, and she finished something like 15 hours. Just seems awful, right? But she's so thankful to be able to do that. It's a great story that she is able to do that. And check that out. Check out that Revelation Wellness and just be thinking. I always like to put a challenge out there of how you can start doing some things, finding something hard to do, and taking gratitude in your ability to do that and enjoying it. It is one of the most useful things that we can do for ourselves is putting ourselves through hard things on purpose. I think it changes your attitude. I think it changes your mindset. It changes your gratitude. It changes everything. It changes your faith. And it prepares us for what life throws at us. If you aren't there, this is my pitch. If you are one of these people like, I can't do that. I don't want to do it. I think I need to, but I can't. That's a mindset change. And that's a place where that is the place for a life coach, because you feel like stuck. You know what you need to do. You know what you need to sign up for. You know what challenge you need to undertake, but you just can't get there. You just don't want to do it. And you know you'd be better if you do these things. You just don't. That's a great place for a coach because they can help you identify your struggles, identify the hurdles mentally, and how to get past that, how you can start working on some mental exercises to be able to get little gains before you can get to that big thing, right? So I love the idea that if you feel like you're not making progress, you're not aiming low enough. We always talk about aiming high, and that's easy to do when we listen to somebody like Anna Pavey. Like, I should sign up for an Ironman, and you haven't ever ran at all. Like, that's really daunting. And I think you should aim big, but first you have to aim small. You have to find a small, hard thing to do that, and then start to build on that. Because I really think you can do more today than you did yesterday, and I think that's important. It's just a great idea to have. Like, I could have more faith today than I did yesterday. I can have more gratitude than I did yesterday. I can run a little bit further than I did yesterday, and that idea of just continually getting a little bit better, that's how progress is made. And if you struggle to get that identified and starting, that's where a coach can really help. And I'd love to help you do that. But yeah, it's just some really good thoughts from Anna Pavey. Enjoyed the interview. Just a phenomenal story. And I love hearing about the works of God and Jesus in people's lives to help them, to move them forward. It's such an inspiring thing. And I love that story. So, and I thank you all for listening, joining, liking, sharing, and subscribing. I can't do it without you guys. So I appreciate it. This has been the Mental Mettle Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Matt Thomann, and always remember to forge your metal. Thanks for listening to the Mental Mettle Podcast. Don't forget to tune in every week for more insights and strategies to help you forge mental toughness and resilience. This podcast is brought to you by Mental Mettle Coaching, where we are driven by a passion for sharing knowledge and experience that empowers others to play, live, and grow with confidence. Our mission is to instill a resilient and spirited mindset in our clients, enabling them to confidently face adversity and actively seek new challenges for personal growth. At Mental Mettle Coaching, we offer individual coaching, group coaching, and professional development for schools and businesses. Whether you're an athlete, educator, or professional, We're here to help you unlock your potential and thrive in every area of life. Until next time, keep growing, stay resilient, and always remember to forge your metal.